salespeople are not great at pipeline management and CRM and notes because it's all in your head. You connect it emotionally with the prospect. It's too much notes to put in. Like, you don't necessarily keep great documentation about that kind of stuff, and it leads to opportunities to forget important details. And anybody who's been responsible for producing the work of a salesperson has seen firsthand how salespeople forget to mention the porch in the back, or that we're going to paint that windowsill at the top, or whatever. These little details, that things that come up in your conversation. So we had to solve that problem. And so the best way I found to explain is to play a game. If I was to give you one of two doors to go through, and one of those doors is you get a guy in a chair who's going to help you sell, but you're going to cut your commissions in half. So we're going to take the commission rate from 8% to 4%. If you were to do that, and you're going to cut the commissions in half, and you're going to split the remaining half. So you go from 8 to 4 and split the 4, so you each get 2. So that's one door. Or the second door, keep doing exactly what you're doing. Do all the sales by yourself. What do you think most salespeople choose? It's okay to put number 2 in the chat, because that's what they would say. And so this is a little test that I like to go through to make my point. I'm going to flip the screen, and you're going to see a number of dots up on the screen. And I want you to count the number of dots that you see. So I'm going to switch the screens. There's going to be 3 tests. We're going to go through the first one. I'm going to switch the screens in 3, 2, 1, go. Everybody should be done by now. And the number is 11. I'm going to do it again, switching screens in 3, 2, 1, go. All right, everybody should be done. Last time, 3, 2, 1, go. So it should be instantaneous. I've done this with 100 companies at this point. The answers are always relatively the same. What's interesting is the math. 7 is more than half of 11, right? 7 times 2 is 14. But yet it takes a third of the time for you to count more than half of the dots. And then 4 is more than half of 7, and it takes half the time here. In fact, this is almost instantaneous. Why is that? And I promise there's a sales lesson buried in this. Because when you're at 11, you probably go, this is really unstructured. I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. But here, that was a lot more obvious. You probably went 4 plus 3. But here, your eyes instantly recognized it. There's 4 dots on the screen. It's instant. So your brain breaks down the act of completing a task differently based on the complexity of the task, which is the only point that I stand to make here, because it comes into the next thing, which is the ABC 1, 2, 3 challenge. This is a really fun activity to do. The first thing I want you to do is to time yourself, counting from 1 to 10 as fast as you can out loud. And the reason it's out loud is because your mouth can only move so fast, right? You're limited by the speed in which you can say things, because you got to enunciate each number. Like, you can't be like, what do 10? It's got to be saying each number. 3, 2, 1, go. Now, most people, it's about 2 seconds. I've done this test a zillion times. If you've done this, you've qualified to do the next one. You just got to know your ABCs, but I want you to go from A to J as fast as you can, saying each letter out loud in 3, 2, 1, go. Most people do the letters a little quicker, because when they realize this is a time thing, and sales guys are usually a pretty competitive bunch, they're going to do that in about 1.8 seconds. So now I just want you to do the same thing you just did, but together. So you're going to go A1, B2 in 3, 2, 1, go. The fastest guys ever did it in 14 seconds, and they made mistakes. I bet you it's safe to say that whoever did it went A1, B2, C3, D4, E5, and then poof, their brain vacated the building. Again, I've done this live hundreds of times. The numbers are like the inside jobs, the things that can only be done from inside the office. They are things where it's like you have a microphone, you have a headset, you have a keyboard, you have fast internet. Boys can do it, girls can do it, people in wheelchairs can do it. Doesn't matter. But then there are jobs that are invariably outside jobs. These are jobs that you have to do outside. You have to get on a roof. You have to see the layers of shingles. So those are like the letters. This experience that you've had as a salesperson, you're up on a roof, you're on step 14 of a 30-point inspection, or whatever your company says your inspection, is, and you're going through, you get a phone call, right? So you're up on the roof and you get this phone call and you recognize the phone number and you feel like you got to answer it. You feel like you know that this is somebody that you've done business with, or you got an estimate out to. So you pick up the phone, it's Gertrude. And Gertrude's a roof you quoted last week. Gertrude wants to know if you can answer a few questions, because she's thinking she's about to make a decision on her roof. And you, of course, now feel this bird in the hand versus bird in the bush problem. You're on a roof, the time clock is ticking, and your customer's going to get annoyed if you take too long. But Gertrude's right there, and she's ready to buy a roof, and you already quoted a roof, and she didn't make a decision when you were there, and now you really, really want to get the deal. And so you have this like little dilemma you have to deal with. And so you decide to keep going with Gertrude, and she says, well, she wants to change the color. You were originally quoting her brown, she wants gray. So now you got to quickly scramble, get into your CRM, change the color. Also, I have this rose bush in the back of my house, and that rose bush was given to me by my grandmother, and that grandmother got the rose bush from Elvis. And if you kill that rose bush, it'll be like killing my grandmother. You got to protect this rose bush. You're like, okay. And so you jump into company cam, you're trying to hope you took the pictures of the rose bush and you build a box around it or something like that. And so you're trying to put something in company cam to say to protect it. You go, okay, is that everything you need, Gertrude? She goes, no, this other guy was at $17,174 and you're at $17,500. Is there any way you could do this for $17,000? And you jump back in and you're like scrolling in Sumo Quote or whatever your quoting tool, and you're trying to adjust the margin slider. You're trying to see if you can do that deal. And you think, I think I could get it. Would you sign if I did? Yep. Okay. So she agrees to sign. You send her off the signature. Now you're like, oh, you're back on this roof in real life. All of a sudden now, where were you in the inspection? What step were you on? And this is something that happens to people when they're trying to manage their pipeline out in the field. Most of the salespeople in the room probably wouldn't have done all that stuff with Gertrude on the phone. They probably would have said the famous last words of every salesperson ever, which is, I'll get that to you as soon as I get back in the office. I'm just on a roof right now, Gertrude, but I'll get back to you. And then you forget. That's happened to all of us. I was a salesperson for a roofing company too. I owned it and I did the same thing. You're doing it all on your own at first, right? And you're trying to do all the things and it gets you in trouble. So what's the sales lesson? Like all these cute little math tricks and stuff. What's the sales lesson in all of this? Is that these are problems that existed in the roofing industry. We just left it be. This new inside-outside sales model I call the new Hotness, and the old way where salespeople do everything is the old and busted model, because it is. After we kind of figured this out, we kind of did some math to try and figure out how would we explain this to people when we come into a roofing company. And so we said, well, if you had 60 seconds to close as many deals and you're doing it the old way, right, where you're doing everything and you're having the context switching, that's why you fail at E5 and struggle to think. These little things happen throughout the salesperson's day that switch them off of their context. And there's this book called The One Thing written by Gary Halpert, and he talks about how it takes you like a third of the time that it takes you to do a task to re-switch back to the context, which the math works out when you do the ABC 1, 2, 3 thing, because those two things take you 4 seconds when they're separate, right? The minute you have to combine them, it takes 14 seconds. It takes more than 3 times as long. When you do this, if you have 60 seconds to get as many deals, just like you have a month to get as many deals, a full cycle salesperson gets 14 seconds per deal, right? To go A1, B2 all the way, you end up with 4 deals. So here, you with 2 salespeople, you end up with 8 deals in a month. Because in this example, if you're just doing 1 to 10 and A to J, 2 seconds, 2 seconds, 2 seconds, 2 seconds, they're going to get 30 deals. Because here, if you have 8 deals times 16,000 each, that's $128,000 in sales. If you're doing 10% commission for the easy math, that's a $12,800 split. Now, in the new Hotness model, you have 30 deals times 16,000 each, which is $480,000 in sales. But if they cut the commissions in half and they split them, well, it would be 5% commission for the inside and the outside. That would be splitting $24,000 in commissions. But this is math that we've proven, that when this system is adopted and people believe in it and they see the vision of it and they work within it and they choose to work as a team, this happens. And the other piece of this is that it just makes sense because you get that teammate. If you remember this show, Spider-Man, there's a scene where Ned, right, his friend finds out that he's Spider-Man. He's like, hey, can I be your guy in the chair? And Spider-Man's like, what do you mean, guy? She's like, well, you're the hero, but like, you know, that person's like on the computer and telling you like where the bad guys are going on the tracking device that's on the map. Like, can I be your guy in the chair? And he's like, yeah, sure. He gets to be that guy in a chair. But we realize that every hero has one. Batman had Lucius Fox, and before that he had Alfred. And then even Tony Stark has Jarvis.